It was an ordinary morning in a small town where life moved slowly. People went about their daily routines. Shops opened, children ran to school, and neighbors exchanged greetings. Everything seemed normal, peaceful, and predictable. But that calm was about to be broken by something no one could have imagined. Suddenly, the sky darkened, and a strange, enormous shadow covered the town. People stopped what they were doing and looked up, shielding their eyes from a brilliant, otherworldly light. Hovering above them was a spacecraft unlike anything they had ever seen. Its surface shimmered like liquid metal, reflecting the sunlight in dazzling patterns, and it made no sound. Yet the vibrations in the air were unmistakable. From the center of this extraordinary craft, a figure appeared. She floated down gracefully, almost as if she were gliding on invisible wind currents. At first, people could not comprehend what they were seeing. She was tall, regal, and radiated a presence that was both terrifying and mesmerizing. Her skin glowed faintly, shifting colors like the surface of a pearl, and her eyes were so deep and intelligent that anyone who looked at them felt as though she could see their deepest thoughts. She wore an elegant robe that seemed alive, flowing around her as if moved by its own consciousness. She was the alien queen, a being from a world far beyond Earth, and her arrival instantly transformed the ordinary town into a place of legend. The queen spoke, and her voice was unlike any human sound. It was melodic yet commanding, echoing through every mind instead of just the air. "People of Earth," she said, "I have come to offer a challenge, a contest of wit, courage, and heart. The prize is not merely mine, but knowledge and understanding that can change the course of your civilization." The townspeople were frozen. The words were clear, but the weight of them sank deep into everyone's mind. They could not tell whether she was threatening or offering a gift. Her presence alone demanded attention, respect, and perhaps a hint of fear. As the queen spoke, the local news crews arrived, broadcasting live footage. Soon, the entire world watched as she announced what she called the marriage challenge. She explained that any human could compete, and the one who succeeded would gain not only her hand in marriage, but also access to extraordinary wisdom and advanced knowledge from her civilization. The town buzzed with excitement and anxiety. Some people saw it as a chance to be famous, others as an impossible dream, and many simply thought it was a hoax. But the proof was right before their eyes, a powerful, undeniable presence that no one could ignore. Among the crowd was a young man named Arman. He was not a soldier, a scientist, or a celebrity. He was simply curious and intelligent, with a kind heart and a sharp mind. When he first saw the queen, he felt a mix of fear and awe. His friends laughed nervously, thinking he would never actually enter such a dangerous challenge. Family members warned him, telling him to stay safe, that no human could hope to compete against an alien being of such power. But Arman could not shake the feeling that this was more than just a spectacle. Something inside him told him that this was a moment to be brave, to test himself in ways he had never imagined. While others hesitated, Arman began observing the queen carefully. He noticed small details that many ignored: the way she tilted her head when considering a contestant, the subtle shifts in her glowing skin that might indicate her reactions, the rhythm of her voice when she posed a question. It seemed to him that the queen was as much a puzzle as the challenge itself. Understanding her, he realized, could be just as important as completing the trials. His mind raced with possibilities. What kind of challenges would she set? How could a human succeed where others might fail? The more he thought about it, the more determined he became. The first day of the challenge drew closer. Participants gathered from all over the world, each bringing their own strengths. Some were athletes, hoping that physical skill would impress the queen. Others were scholars, assuming that knowledge and logic alone would carry them through. But Arman believed in a different approach. He understood that this challenge was Not just about strength or intellect, it was about observation, understanding, and adaptability. Every glance, every small gesture from the queen could hold a clue. Every human flaw or fear might be an obstacle. He prepared himself mentally, practicing focus, patience, and calmness, while others focused on training or memorizing facts. The town was no longer ordinary. Streets were filled with journalists, scientists, tourists, and curious onlookers. Social media exploded with speculation about who would win. Some doubted anyone could succeed. Others rooted for Arman, inspired by his quiet determination and the way he studied the queen rather than merely reacting. Children whispered about heroes and aliens, while adults debated strategies and possibilities. The atmosphere was electric, full of hope, fear, and curiosity, yet also a strange sense of community as everyone shared in the unfolding event. Finally, the day of the first public trial arrived. The queen stood at the center of a vast arena, built overnight in the town square, her presence dominating everything. Contestants approached one by one, attempting to answer questions, solve puzzles, or complete tasks that seemed impossible at first glance. Some faltered under pressure, some became frustrated and left. Arman, however, took a deep breath and approached calmly. He focused on observing, listening, and understanding rather than rushing. Each challenge he faced became a lesson. Each failure a chance to adapt and grow. The crowd watched in awe as he navigated tasks that seemed to confuse even the most skilled humans. By the end of the day, it was clear that Arman was different. Not the strongest, not the fastest, not the most learned, but perhaps the most thoughtful, the most observant, and the most human in the truest sense. The queen herself watched him with interest, her expression unreadable, yet revealing a hint of curiosity and approval. The townspeople began to realize that this challenge was unlike any competition they had seen. It was not a game, not a show. It was a test of character, intelligence, and heart. And for Arman, the journey had only just begun. Even as the sun set and the crowd dispersed for the night, Arman felt a quiet excitement. He knew the days ahead would be difficult, full of surprises and perhaps moments of fear. But he also felt a sense of purpose. A feeling that he was part of something extraordinary, something that would not only test him, but also inspire others to see the strength in courage, kindness, and curiosity. The small town, once ordinary, had become the stage for a story that the world would never forget. After the dramatic arrival of the alien queen, the world's attention was completely focused on the small town. People everywhere were talking about the mysterious challenge, debating whether it was real and wondering who could possibly win. News outlets covered every detail, broadcasting live updates as contestants from all over the globe arrived. Scientists, adventurers, athletes, and even ordinary people traveled with hope and curiosity, each believing they might have what it took to succeed. Among them, Arman quietly observed everything, careful not to be distracted by the chaos around him. He knew that winning this challenge would require more than speed, strength, or knowledge. It would require understanding the queen herself and the nature of the tests she would set. The alien queen finally addressed the contestants in a calm but commanding voice. "The challenge will test your mind, heart, and spirit," she explained. "It is not merely a game of knowledge or strength. Each stage will present a problem, a choice, or a trial that will reveal the true character of the person who attempts it. Only those who can remain steady, thoughtful, and courageous will succeed." Her words echoed in the minds of everyone present. Many contestants felt intimidated. Some whispered to each other about quitting, while others nodded determinedly, preparing themselves for what lay ahead. The first round of the challenge began with a simple test of observation. Contestants were presented with a series of objects and asked to describe not just what they saw, but also what they believed each object represented. Some humans responded quickly, relying on logic or memory, but the queen shook her head at many answers, indicating that speed alone was not enough. Armin approached the task slowly, examining each object carefully, noticing details that others missed, the slight asymmetry of shapes, subtle colors, and hidden patterns. When it was his turn, he described what he saw, then added his reasoning, showing insight into the purpose and meaning behind the objects. The Queen's eyes seemed to linger on him, as if she were quietly impressed by his thoughtful approach. As the rounds progressed, the challenges became more complex. Contestants were asked to solve puzzles that required teamwork, communicate with alien technology that responded to thought and emotion, and navigate obstacles that tested patience and adaptability. Many competitors struggled, becoming frustrated or anxious. Some tried to rush through the trials, hoping to impress the Queen with speed or audacity, only to fail. Others overanalyzed, paralyzed by fear of making a mistake. Armin, however, maintained a calm focus. He took notes, observed the reactions of the Queen, and experimented patiently, learning from each small success and failure. His approach was methodical, and over time, it became clear that his quiet determination was setting him apart from the crowd. One of the most challenging tasks involved understanding the emotions of the Queen. Contestants were asked to choose between two options, each affecting a simulated alien society. Many participants guessed, relying on logic or chance, but the Queen responded with subtle shifts in expression or color, indicating that the choice had not been entirely correct. Armin took a different approach. He carefully observed the Queen's body language, the way her glow changed, and even the subtle sound vibrations around her. By paying attention to these signals, he was able to make choices that aligned with what the Queen valued most: compassion, fairness, and insight. This task not only demonstrated his intelligence, but also highlighted his emotional sensitivity, a quality that seemed rare among the other contestants. Throughout the day, spectators watched in awe. People had expected strength or brilliance to dominate, but they began to realize that patience, observation, and understanding were equally, if not more, important. Journalists noted Armin's calm demeanor and thoughtful approach, calling him the quiet strategist and the human who seems to understand the Queen. Even other contestants began to notice him, some with admiration and some with frustration, realizing that his style was different from their own. The atmosphere was filled with tension, excitement, and a growing sense of anticipation about who might ultimately succeed. Armin also faced internal challenges. Fear and doubt crept into his mind. He wondered whether he was truly capable, whether he could keep up with contestants who seemed stronger, faster, or more experienced. At moments, he almost questioned whether this challenge was meant for humans at all. But he reminded himself of the small victories he had achieved so far, the solutions he had discovered, the insights he had gained, and the subtle approvals of the Queen. Each of these moments strengthened his resolve. He realized that courage did not mean the absence of fear, but the willingness to continue despite it. By evening, the first day of the challenge ended. Contestants gathered, weary, but excited, reflecting on their experiences. The Queen addressed them again, her voice calm but powerful. "You have learned the first lesson of the challenge," she said. "Observation and understanding are as vital as strength and knowledge. Continue to pay attention, to think, and to act with your heart as well as your mind." Her words were both a warning and an encouragement. Many contestants left with confusion or frustration, but Armin felt a quiet confidence. He knew that his approach, which emphasized patience, observation, and empathy, gave him a real chance to succeed. Back at the lodging provided for the contestants, Armin reviewed his notes and thought carefully about what he had learned. He considered the Queen's behavior, the patterns in her challenges, and the qualities that seemed to impress her most. He realized that success in this challenge required a combination of qualities: creativity, courage, empathy, and careful observation. It was not enough to rely on one strength. One had to blend them together, using each in the right moment. This understanding became his guiding principle as he prepared for the trials to come. By the end of the day, the small town had transformed from an ordinary, quiet place into a hub of excitement and curiosity. The arrival of the alien queen and the beginning of the challenge had captured the attention of the world, and people everywhere were now watching not just for the spectacle, but for the remarkable human who seemed to be standing out among the participants. Armand had become a symbol of hope and possibility, a reminder that careful thought, patience, and a calm, steady heart could sometimes achieve what seemed impossible. As night fell, the Queen's ship hovered silently above, its glow reflecting off the town below. Armand looked up at it and felt a mixture of awe and determination. He knew the challenge was only beginning and that the days ahead would test him in ways he could not yet imagine. But he also knew that if he remained observant, thoughtful, and true to himself, he had a real chance not only to succeed but to show the world the power of human courage and wisdom. The next morning, the town buzzed with anticipation. Word had spread that the challenges were becoming even more difficult, and everyone was eager to see who could handle the Queen's tests. Armand woke early, his mind already racing with possibilities. He understood that the upcoming trials would test more than just intelligence or observation. They would test character, judgment, and resilience under pressure. The first day had taught him that the Queen valued patience and understanding, but he knew the next trials would go deeper, revealing not only skill but the true nature of each contestant's heart. When he arrived at the arena, he found that the challenges had changed. No longer were they simple puzzles or observation tasks. The Queen had designed trials that required decision-making under uncertainty, moral judgment, and quick thinking in unpredictable circumstances. Some tasks were physical, requiring agility or balance, while others tested mental endurance and emotional intelligence. Contestants who had relied solely on strength or knowledge began to falter. Frustration, fear, and impatience were common, and some competitors withdrew, feeling overwhelmed. Armand, however, approached each challenge with careful focus, remembering the lessons of the first day. He listened closely, observed keenly, and kept his emotions steady even when the pressure was intense. The first trial of the day required contestants to navigate a complex maze that constantly changed shape. Walls shifted, floors tilted, and new obstacles appeared at every turn. Many humans panicked, trying to force their way through or relying on brute strength. But Armand paused, studied the patterns of the shifting maze, and noticed that there was a rhythm to the movements. By waiting and observing carefully, he began to predict the changes and move smoothly through the corridors. Along the way, he helped another contestant who had become trapped, showing kindness without expecting reward. This act of empathy did not go unnoticed by the Queen, whose glow brightened slightly as she watched him navigate the challenge. Next came a trial of logic and moral judgment. Contestants were presented with a scenario involving a simulated alien community facing a dilemma. Each person had to make a choice that would affect the well-being of the group, knowing that selfish or thoughtless decisions could cause harm. Many competitors made choices to benefit themselves or rushed through without considering the consequences. Armand, however, approached the scenario with care. He listened to the situation, considered the needs of all involved, and made a decision that balanced fairness, kindness, and practicality. When he revealed his choice, the Queen's reaction was subtle but clear, approval and surprise, as if she had not expected a human to consider both logic and empathy so carefully. The third trial combined physical skill with creative thinking. Contestants had to assemble a device using alien materials, some of which responded to thought or emotion rather than simple manipulation. Many people struggled, unable to understand the unusual properties of the materials. Armand approached it, methodically, experimenting gently and observing how the components reacted to different intentions. Slowly, he discovered a combination that worked, creating a functioning device that impressed not only the queen but also other contestants. His careful patience, willingness to try new approaches, and resilience under pressure distinguished him from the rest, reinforcing the idea that adaptability and creativity were just as important as raw skill. Throughout the day, Armin faced smaller but equally meaningful challenges. In one, he had to communicate with an alien creature that mirrored emotions. Contestants who tried to command or force it found themselves blocked or rejected. Armin approached calmly, matching his tone to the creature's subtle vibrations, showing patience and understanding. Gradually, the creature responded, guiding him to a hidden path that allowed him to continue. Each trial built upon the previous ones, reinforcing lessons in empathy, focus, and observation. Armin realized that success in the challenge was not about winning quickly, but about learning, adapting, and remaining composed even in the most confusing or stressful situations. The crowd watching the trials was becoming increasingly fascinated. They had expected a display of strength or knowledge to dominate, but instead they were witnessing something entirely different. Armin's methodical, calm, and empathetic approach stood out in a way that inspired admiration. Children in the audience whispered that he was clever, while adults remarked on his patience and courage. Even competitors began to respect his approach, acknowledging that their strategies, which relied on speed, force, or superficial intelligence, were insufficient for these challenges. The atmosphere was tense but exciting, filled with anticipation for what would happen next. As the day wore on, the queen increased the difficulty further. Contestants faced trials that tested not just their abilities, but their willingness to make sacrifices for others. Armin encountered situations where he could take the easiest path for himself, but saw that helping another participant or solving a problem for the group would be far more valuable. Time and again, he chose the harder but more meaningful option. Each decision strengthened his standing in the eyes of the queen, whose expression showed subtle approval. Armin began to understand that this challenge was not simply about personal victory, but about proving qualities of humanity that might be unexpected to an alien observer: compassion, cooperation, and moral courage. Despite his focus, Armin faced moments of doubt. He questioned whether he could truly succeed, whether his calm approach would be enough against competitors who were faster, stronger, or more confident. At times, fear tried to creep in, whispering that the challenges were impossible and that failure was inevitable. But he reminded himself of the small successes he had achieved, the patterns he had discovered, the decisions he had made, the lives he had helped along the way. Each small victory reinforced his belief that perseverance, careful thought, and moral courage could overcome even the most intimidating obstacles. By evening, the day's trials concluded. The contestants were exhausted, but Armin felt a quiet sense of accomplishment. He had faced challenges that seemed impossible and had navigated them with patience, observation, and empathy. The queen addressed the group once again, her voice calm but filled with authority. "You have shown skill, insight, and courage," she said. "But the trials are only beginning. True understanding will be tested, and only those who combine mind, heart, and courage will continue forward." Her words reminded everyone that the journey was far from over and that the path ahead would require even greater focus and resilience. As night fell, the arena emptied, leaving a sense of quiet wonder in the town. Contestants returned to their lodgings, discussing the day's events and reflecting on their experiences. Armin sat quietly, reviewing the lessons he had learned. He realized that his approach, careful observation, empathy, patience, and moral courage, was giving him a real advantage. Unlike others who relied on brute force, speed, or surface knowledge, he was learning to see the deeper patterns, the subtle cues, and the qualities the queen valued most. Each trial was not just a test of ability, but a lesson in understanding, adaptation, and the human capacity for thoughtful action. The town, once ordinary, had now transformed into a place of excitement, inspiration, and curiosity. People watched and learned from Armand's example, understanding that success often comes not from rushing or competing for attention, but from observing, thinking carefully, and acting with integrity. His quiet determination, patience, and willingness to help others set him apart, making him a figure of hope and possibility in a world suddenly filled with extraordinary events. As he looked up at the hovering spacecraft, its glow lighting the town below, Armand felt both anticipation and resolve. He knew that the coming days would bring trials even more challenging, testing every skill, every thought, and every choice he could make. But he also knew that if he remained true to himself, calm, observant, empathetic, and courageous, he had a real chance to succeed and to show the world the remarkable potential of humanity. The day of the final trial arrived, and the atmosphere was electric. The entire town and countless spectators from around the world gathered to witness the climax of the Alien Queen's challenge. News channels broadcast live, and people held their breath, eager to see if any human could truly succeed. The competitors, weary from days of trials, prepared themselves for the ultimate test. Unlike the previous challenges, this final trial was not clearly defined. The Queen had hinted that it would test not only skill and intelligence, but the heart, the moral courage, empathy, and true character of the contestant. Armand stepped into the arena quietly, observing the other competitors. Many had grown tense, some nervous, others overconfident. They had relied on speed, strength, or intellect to reach this point. But Armand had learned that those qualities alone would not be enough. He remembered the lessons of the previous days. Careful observation, patience, empathy, and moral courage had guided him through challenges that others failed. Now he understood that this final trial would demand all of those qualities together in a way that would separate the truly remarkable from the merely competent. The Queen appeared at the center of the arena, her glowing presence more commanding than ever. She spoke, her voice echoing in everyone's mind. The final trial is not one of puzzles or physical challenges. It is a test of choice. You will be presented with a situation that requires you to decide between your own comfort or advantage and the welfare of others. The correct choice is not obvious. The outcome will reveal who truly understands the values that define strength, wisdom, and courage. Contestants looked at one another nervously, realizing that this trial would test not just skill but character, the very essence of who they were. The scenario was presented. A simulated community, part human and part alien, was in danger. Resources were limited, and every decision the contestants made could either save lives or lead to suffering. The easiest path was to prioritize personal gain or comfort, securing an immediate victory for oneself, but at the expense of others. Many contestants hesitated, unable to act decisively. Some chose selfishly, reasoning that personal success was the ultimate goal. Armand paused. He carefully assessed the situation, observed the needs of the community, and considered the long-term consequences of every possible choice. His mind raced, but he remained calm, knowing that fear or haste could lead to failure. Armand made his decision. He chose the path that would help the community even if it meant risking his own advantage. It was a selfless choice, guided by compassion and understanding rather than strategy or fear. The Queen's expression shifted slightly, a rare smile appearing on her face. She had expected cleverness, strength, or speed, but what she had not expected was a human displaying such moral courage and empathy. The crowd fell silent, sensing that something extraordinary had just occurred. Armand's choice, though difficult and risky, had demonstrated not only his intelligence, but the qualities the Queen valued most: patience, empathy, creativity, and courage. The Queen stepped closer, her glowing form illuminating the arena. "You have done what few, even among my own kind, have achieved," she said, her voice filled with approval. "You have chosen the path of understanding, compassion, and true courage. You have shown that humanity, even in its simplicity, holds remarkable strength." The spectators erupted into applause and astonishment. Many could not believe that a human, someone ordinary by earthly standards, had succeeded where so many others had failed. Competitors looked at Armin with respect and admiration, recognizing that his combination of intelligence, empathy, and moral courage had set him apart in ways they had not anticipated. Armin felt a mix of relief, pride, and disbelief. The weight of the challenge, the pressure, and the uncertainty of each trial had tested him deeply. Yet, through careful observation, patience, and adherence to his own values, he had reached the moment that now defined him. The Queen continued, praising not only his decision in the final trial, but his approach throughout the entire challenge. She explained that while many had relied on skill or speed, few had demonstrated true understanding, empathy, and resilience under pressure, qualities that she considered essential for leadership, wisdom, and connection across worlds. The arena was filled with cheers, gasps, and applause. People everywhere witnessed history being made. A human had not only survived the alien queen's challenge, but had won it with grace, intelligence, and moral courage. Armin's heart swelled, not from pride alone, but from the realization that he had proven something important, that humanity's strengths were not always obvious, but they were real, powerful, and sometimes extraordinary. The Queen's reaction had shocked everyone, confirming that the true test was not strength or intellect, but character. As the event concluded, the Queen announced that Armin's victory granted him more than just success in the challenge. He would have access to knowledge, wisdom, and experiences beyond human understanding, and he would be recognized as a representative of humanity's potential. The story of his triumph spread instantly, inspiring people across the globe and leaving a lasting impression of what courage, empathy, and intelligence could achieve when combined with moral integrity. After the final trial, the atmosphere in the town shifted from excitement to celebration. The news spread quickly. A human had won the alien queen's challenge. People everywhere were astonished, inspired, and curious about the implications. The Queen herself, who had seemed untouchable and distant just days before, now showed an unexpected warmth and respect toward Armin. Her reaction had shocked everyone, demonstrating that her judgment was guided not by dominance or expectation, but by recognition of true virtue and courage. Armin was invited to speak with the Queen privately, an honor that few could have imagined. He approached her with a mix of awe and humility. She looked at him with an intensity that was both intimidating and comforting, her glowing eyes reflecting curiosity, respect, and approval. "You have demonstrated qualities that are rare, even among my own kind," she said. "Your courage, empathy, and intelligence have proven that humans possess potential that is remarkable. You have shown that understanding and compassion can be as powerful as strength and speed." Armin listened quietly, feeling the magnitude of her words, and realized that this moment was not just about winning a challenge. It was about recognition of human potential in its purest form. The town, now a hub of celebration, became a place of learning and inspiration. People from all over visited, eager to hear Armin's story and witness the presence of the Queen. Children looked up to him as a hero, adults admired his composure and courage, and scientists studied the events, hoping to understand how human qualities had succeeded in a challenge designed by an alien mind. Armin, however, remained humble. He knew that his success was not due to luck or extraordinary power, but to patience, observation, empathy, and moral courage. He shared his experience openly, explaining how careful thought, understanding, and acting with integrity had guided him through the trials. The queen, impressed by his humility and wisdom, offered him access to knowledge and guidance from her civilization. Armon accepted, not for personal gain alone, but to learn and to share insights that could benefit humanity. He realized that the challenge was not just about victory, but about growth, understanding, and bridging worlds. His success became a symbol of hope, showing that ordinary humans, when guided by courage and compassion, could achieve extraordinary things. In the days that followed, the bond between Armon and the Queen deepened. She shared insights about her world, her experiences, and the values that guided her civilization. Armon, in turn, offered perspectives from Earth, helping her understand the complexities, beauty, and resilience of humanity. Their interaction became an example of cooperation and mutual respect between worlds, showing that understanding and empathy could bridge even the greatest differences. The story of Armon's victory spread globally. Schools taught lessons inspired by his courage. Scientists discussed the methods he had used to solve the challenges, and ordinary people found hope in the idea that determination, patience, and empathy could overcome obstacles far greater than themselves. Armon became a symbol not just of triumph, but of what humans could achieve when they stayed true to their values and faced challenges with courage and intelligence. Ultimately, the alien queen's reaction, the respect, approval, and recognition she gave, left a lasting impression on everyone. People realized that success was not just about power, knowledge, or dominance, but about character, understanding, and moral courage. Armon had proven that humans, though ordinary in appearance, could demonstrate extraordinary potential when guided by intelligence, empathy, and bravery. The town returned to normal life, but the world had changed. Everyone knew that history had witnessed something remarkable. A human had not only faced an alien challenge, but had triumphed with heart, mind, and courage, leaving a legacy of inspiration for generations to come.